matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, we obviously do not have the required quorum this morning, and I ask that the bell be rung for 10 minutes.
So then we have two questions. Gani tena? Nini? Namba yake. So you can go where
We'll cancel all the licenses.
Not yet. Yes. Not yet.
Not yet.
Order, members, order, order. We still do not have the required quorum. So I order that the bell be rung for a further 5 minutes. Further 5 minutes.
Park is not sitting. They are supposed to come here, come on, remember so. Hiyo kijana hiyo namwambia. Kama walikuwa na nini tena. Just in case you might not get
Imejaa, itajaa. Because those were leaving.
That member walking in, just walk in so that we can now move to business. Order, members. Now we can start business. Order, members, order. So we can now start business.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Chief Whip, Majority Party.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the majority, the leader of the majority party, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021, this morning's sitting. Annual report and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2020 for the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA. 2, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2019 and the certificates therein. 1, University of Eldoret. 2, Current Technical Training Institute. 3, Kabete National Polytechnic. 4, Kenya Ordnance Factory Corporation, KOFC. 5, Ewaso Nyiro South Development Authority. 6, Nyayo T-Zones Development Corporation. 7, Kenya Meat Commission. 8, Micro and Small Enterprise Authority. And 9, Africa Institute for Capacity Development. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. So we go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
This particular order, we will start with questions. And this morning we only have ordinary questions. So let's start with the member for Nandi Hills, the Honorable Alfred Keter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raised to us the following question to the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning. That number 1, what is the current amount of the country's total debt, both domestic and external? Question number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a breakdown of the total amount of funds that the country has borrowed, both domestically and externally, since independence, indicating the amount borrowed during the term of each of the previous and current presidents? Question number 3.
Murukai. And honorable members, you should be asking, this question is extremely long. Proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, this is the second time I'm introducing this question. And the question reads, this is question number 361 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and National Planning. Question 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the method used by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, during the 2019 National Population and Housing Census exercise in Turkana County, specifically Loima constituency, which recorded a 12% drop in the population from the figure recorded during the 2009 census, despite the area having recorded a fertility rate of 6.9% and a growth rate of 3.35% on average, which is higher than the national average of 5.9 and 2.9% respectively. Question 2, could the Cabinet Secretary also explain why the pre-census projections of the population of Loima constituency indicated a population of 151,935 in 2016, 157,340 in 2017, and 162,807 in 2018, with the population catchment projections estimating 32,334 households, with an average household size of 5.9 translating into a population projection of 190,770.6 only for the 2019 population and housing census to record a 12% reduction. Question 3. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the formula used in data collection and the methods applied in the reporting, storage, analysis, and data smoothing for the enumeration results of Loima constituency, and also avail the raw data as captured by the enumerators, and further explain why the cross-border population of approximately 9,000 persons was not factored? Last question, Honorable Speaker. Could the Cabinet Secretary indicate when the post-census analysis for Loima constituency would be conducted so as to ascertain the actual population of the area, considering it is a key component for planning and resource allocation? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. So we go to the next segment in that particular order. But order, members, order. There are two members who are speaking very close to each other. And it can only be done by people who have just come from the same house. So let's proceed. Now, so we go to statements. And the statement by the Honorable Kangogo Bawen is deferred. I have received a request, which I accept. The next one is by the Honorable Olago Oluoch. Are you ready with that one, the Honorable Olago?
I am, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I request for a statement regarding the failure by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to set aside land for the proposed Kotetni Secondary School from Kodiaga GK prison land. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, sub 2, sub C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security, regarding the intention of the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government through the Department of Correctional Services to identify and set aside specific acreage of land for the creation of the proposed Kotetni Secondary School. Honorable Speaker, sometime in 2011, the then Vice President and Minister for Home Affairs, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, after consulting with his then Permanent Secretary and myself, confirmed in writing that land would be set aside at Kodiaga GK prison for creation of a much-needed secondary school for boys and girls. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, despite several efforts by the community living around Kodiaga GK prison, the ministry has not been able to indicate the acreage and the specific siting of the land set aside for the school. Since then, the number of pupils that need access to public secondary schooling has increased enormously. The policy of the government on 100% transition has put even more pressure on the few secondary schools in the area. Now is the time for the ministry to identify an appropriate acreage of Kodiaga GK prison land that lies adjacent to Kotetni Primary School so that the community may realize the dream of starting a secondary school. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to address the following issues. Number one, could the Chairperson confirm that a decision had indeed been made around 2011 to excise part of Kodiaga GK prison land for the creation of a secondary school for the community? Number two, is the Chairperson aware that the creation of such a school would ease the pressure on secondary school admissions in the surrounding area and would also offer places for pupils in Kodiaga GK prison, primary and Kotetni primary schools, and other primary schools in the vicinity? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, is the Chairperson aware that the proposed secondary school would offer places not just for children of the staff of Kodiaga GK prison, but also to members of the surrounding community, and would then translate to corporate social responsibility by the Department of Correctional Services, and would therefore improve the relation between the department and the local community? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. and members are discouraged from coming to the Speaker's chair because it therefore disorientates his line of thought. Now, so that one, of course, will be referred to the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Now, then we go to the next one by the Honorable Kipsangeret Koros. Yes, you are in the House. Proceed. Make your request.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request for statement regarding conflicts along the Nyanza and Rift Valley boundary, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44, 2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding incessant border conflicts along Nyanza and Rift Valley regions, borders particularly in Sondu Market in Sigawet, Soin Sub-County. Honorable Speaker, historically, land issues in these two regions have continued to be emotive and sensitive, with residents experiencing persistent conflicts and fights, which have spurred confusion, misunderstanding on the administrative boundaries. A case in point is that Kisumu County officials have been crossing to Kericho County, that is Sondu Market, Mr. Speaker, to collect revenue in the name of taxes from the traders operating in Kericho County. Honorable Speaker, it's prudent to note that Sondu Market has been in existence even before independence, as part of the defunct Rift Valley province and particularly part of Kericho district. The acts leading to revenue collection at Sondu Market by officials from a different local government is a recipe for chaos and disorder, since traders have been victimized by paying county revenue twice after both county government officials have claimed such conflicted areas to be within their jurisdictions. Honorable Speaker, aware that there have been survey beacons since time immemorial, clearly demarcating the two regions, it's impracticable for the Kisumu County officials to cross the site of Kericho in Sondu Market and frustrate the innocent traders therein in the guise for lack of clarity, a problem which has persisted in the last 3 to 4 years without mitigation. Honorable Speaker, it is against the background that I seek a statement from the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security, on the following. Is there clearly demarcated boundary between the counties of Kericho and Kisumu? And what has changed for the last 4 years, given that such an encroachment didn't exist earlier on? Who removed, or rather altered, the initial beacons of the general boundary survey distinguishing the two regions, and under whose supervision? 3, what measures has the ministry undertaken to clearly demarcate the boundary between the two counties with specific interests at Sondu Market? What short-term measures has the ministry put in place to ensure the local traders are mitigated against the menace of double taxation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, now, that one will also be referred to the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. I would be very happy to get either the chair or the vice of that particular committee, or even one member, to get to know the feeling on how long these two requests will take. Well, through the majority whip, I think we should be having this within 14 days. Is that fair, or do we give them 21?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, given that I'll act as a conveyor belt, I request that maybe you allow them 14 days. That should be sufficient for a response to come to the House, Honorable Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see how we can expedite that. All right, so we go to the next order. Honorable.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Akoth.
Thank you.
What is it you shouted, and you know you can just press your gadget, and I can see from here.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. And thank you for allowing me or giving me this opportunity. And sorry also, Mr. Speaker, for raising this, but sometimes some of these things we have are unforeseen. Yesterday in the evening, we had a tragedy in my constituency. A number of people were traveling from Homa Bay town by boat, and the weather was bad, and the boat capsized. 2 people have already been confirmed dead, and 9 are missing. And Mr. Speaker, because they are missing overnight, it is presumed they are most likely dead. So, Mr. Speaker, my constituency has lost, or may likely to have lost, 11 people. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity, first of all, to send my condolences to the people of Ndoru and Lambwe and Suba North in general. But Mr. Speaker, in a very special way, the reason why I'm raising this point of order, because tragedy does not respect orders. I will be raising a more substantive issue later. But I was just requesting the government to assist. I know that there are people who are already helping with the rescue, but just to also help us, because as people of the lake, the people who die are buried immediately. If the government, when the bodies are recovered, if the government can help us to assist those families who are bereaved, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
But, the Honorable Millie, I feel your pain, because this is a serious thing, that lives have been lost. But you're also a seasoned politician who's been in this house for quite some time. You could have easily raised it in a different manner, procedurally. I agree with you that some of these things do not require procedure, but you see, we have too many things that would not require ordinarily procedure. Therefore, if we bring all of them together, then we will become a completely unprocedural house. So, but you have had your day, but in future, I would be happy if you have an issue, even of a different nature, you raise it using the right standing orders, because you actually rose as if it was something which was out of order. Yes, indeed, that is out of order, but the specific things that would raise points of orders within the presence. Thank you. So then we can go to the next order.
Order number 8, the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Act 2015 and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Kenya Deposit Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2020, second reading.
Now, on this particular one, we had a balance of 27 minutes, and there was a member on the floor. Which member was this? Yes, Fabian, Honorable Fabian Muli. Are you in the House? Because you had a balance of 6 minutes. In absence of the Honorable Fabian Muli, he forfeits, of course, his minutes. Therefore, we'll go to other members who wish to contribute, and we have only 27 minutes. So members would be... So we will, I don't know, let's start with, I can see from the list, Honorable Pukosa, had you contributed? Because you are top on the list. Honorable Sankok had also contributed. We have Honorable Paul Mwirigi. You had contributed on this, or you want the next one? The Honorable Dawood? Well, interesting. We probably are having, let me see, any member who wants to speak, please press the intervention slot so that I don't have to call all your names and put you down in the rank here. Intervention, put the intervention slot. I will notice from that bit. The Honorable Ogutu, is it on this one? I don't think so. Let me see the one who's just pressed now, Honorable Murugara. Then it seems that we probably, the only option that we have is to ask the mover to respond and to reply. Well, Honorable Dawood, I've seen just one member who wants to contribute, and that would be the last one, really. And then we have you replying, because then other members would come and want to contribute on something that has already... So proceed, the Honorable Member for Gilgil, the Honorable Wanjira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill by Honorable Dawood, and I think what Honorable Dawood is trying to do is just to tidy up what has been in practice. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, the current payout right now is pegged about 500,000 for any bank that sinks or any institution that goes down. And Mr. Speaker, that means as a regulation, it is easily moved. It actually becomes a moving variable. So I think what he's trying to do is to correct that anomaly and to ensure that we don't have conniving institutions that go behind the regulations to make adjustments without following the due process. So, Mr. Speaker, by putting it to 1 million and putting it in an act of parliament, it gets more weight in terms of the KICD will be actually obliged to peg it at 1 million. And Mr. Speaker, that means we'll have more security for these institutions, and being in law is better than being in the regulation. So I want to just thank the Honorable Dawood for that, and I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was brief. So let's have the mover replying.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to reply. Mr. Speaker, when I brought this bill, the majority leader did complain that we did not need this bill. Mr. Speaker, the essence of the bill, I think, was lost in partisanship because, Mr. Speaker, when I brought this initial bill, in 2018-19, it has gone round to the Budget Committee. It went to the Finance Committee twice.
The Honorable Dawood, I have to be very clear on something. You said this bill was lost. We have not lost any bill yet. You are actually moving the last bit. So I want you to reply.
Mr. Speaker, it was not lost on the floor of the House. It was lost in the committees because it took more than 3 years to. Well, my colleague says it was misplaced, but in the process, it finally made it here. And Mr. Speaker, when I said the Parliamentary Budget Office, when they came to the Finance Committee and the Budget Committee, they recommended, because with this bill in place, the savings culture in this country will improve. And they even said that the money to the exchequer will be more than what they are getting at the moment. Mr. Speaker, when I first initially proposed it from 100 to 1 million, it was not just out of the blue. Mr. Speaker, when Chase Bank went down, the governor of the central bank raised it to 1 million, what can be given out. And Mr. Speaker, that was the basis, because 100,000 in 1989 is not the same as 100,000 in 2021. So that is why, Mr. Speaker, when they did a regulation by KDIC, did a regulation to raise it to 500,000 in 2020, that does not suffice, because a regulation can be withdrawn at any particular time. And that is why I have put it at 1 million. Mr. Speaker, like I said last time, this is an insurance. Now it is risk-based. And if we are so sure that KDIC and central bank is doing up to their job, then they should do more supervision so we don't have banks falling. And then they will not be using that money, because they have got more than 130 billion in deposits at the moment, which have been deposited by as insurance from the banks which are concerned. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, I beseech my colleagues that we pass this bill, because there is nothing wrong with it. It is just going to assist our people when a bank falls. Mr. Speaker, at the moment, as we are talking, up to now, the liquidation of Imperial Bank has not been completed 6 years down the line. Chase Bank took some people took a hit, and even the committee members of finance. I am surprised, because the first report they did for pre-publication of this bill, they gave it a thumbs up. But in the second report, they said it will not work because it's going to incur a lot of expenses and we cannot afford it. So, Mr. Speaker, I beseech my colleagues, because this is for our people who have got money in the banks, because we cannot say 100,000 or 500,000. Somebody who's got more than 500,000, where does he go? Or where does he or she go? So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I would want to, Mheshimiwa Mili wanted to say one or two words, if she can be allowed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, because we had an opportunity to give members, time. And again, Honorable Dawood, if you have to do it in future, what you need to do is to do it early so that we can be able to understand that you are going to save some number of minutes for your colleagues. So this one, I don't think we are going to open it, and neither are we going to put the question for now, for obvious reasons, so therefore I'm deferring it to the next opportunity. So we go to the next order.
Order number 10, the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 31 of 2019, second reading.
Okay, the Honorable Pukose, proceed, move your...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I move that the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 31 of 2019, be read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to establish the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority to provide for the regulation and management of food, drugs, and chemical substances, to provide for the regulation of medical devices and other health technologies, and to give effect to the principles and objects of devolved government in food safety regulation and connected purposes. Honorable Speaker, I want to give just before general comments on why we are talking about the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority. Honorable Speaker, Kenya Food and Drugs Authority is central to the universal health care in terms of strengthening the regulatory systems. It also gives credibility and authenticity of the regulated medical products, what we call maturity level 3, and opening up broader markets for products and expertise. When we talk of maturity level 3, it means that Kenyan products can be able to be sold in other areas where within the region. Normally, with maturities, it goes up to level 5. The only countries that have attained maturity level 3 in Africa is Ghana and South Africa. The rest of the countries haven't achieved. So that way, it means our products, our pharmaceutical products, can be sold within any other region outside Kenya if we achieve maturity level 3. Also, under the WHA, World Health Assembly Regulation number 6720, this is in keeping with the Constitution and the Health Act 2017, Section 62. This bill aims to establish an autonomous regulatory authority to harmonize and consolidate the regulation of the trade-in, management, and aspects of utilization of all health products and technologies. What are the benefits of having this KFDA? It will support and improve the regulatory capacity of the pharmaceutical products in Kenya. 2, mitigation of substandard and falsified medicines, because occasionally you go to a place and you find that the medicines that are being consumed could be substandard, it could be falsified, could be spurious. We also strengthen and harmonize regulatory systems in Kenya to improve predictability and efficiency of marketing approvals so that innovative new health technologies can be delivered and used sooner, ultimately improving health outcomes of patients in need. This also avoids duplication of regulatory review accelerate scientific risk-benefit adjusted reviews, facilitate mutual recognition, and accelerate access. Towards this end, Honorable Speaker, the scope of food and drug safety legislation is generally defined by the category of the products.
Order, member for Samburu East, and member of, which county is that? But please, I have indicated that we must keep safe social distance. Yeah, doesn't matter. Actually, I even said that it is people from the same house, actually from the same home, because you know in same house it could be different. So please, let's keep very, very safe distance. It's good. Proceed, the Honorable Dr. Pukosi.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the purpose of this KFDA bill is to safeguard the health and safety of consumers with regard to broad categories of products which they routinely consume. These are food and medicines. The measures outlined in the bill seek to ensure that food is safe and of adequate nutrition, and the medicines and other products used in healthcare are safe, efficacious, and of acceptable quality. The bill is expected to address chronic weaknesses in the existing regulatory and control systems. In as far as drugs is concerned, Kenya has a national regulatory authority for assuring the quality, safety, and efficacy of medicines. This is the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. However, the current enabling law, the Pharmacy and Poisons Act, which was done in 1957 to create through CAP 244, is outdated, and it presents numerous challenges to the functionality of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. And I'll give examples. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board regulates the profession of pharmacy and medicines. Although this model was common practice in the 1950s, the health landscape and the health sciences involved have changed dramatically, and consequently, the regulatory approaches have evolved. In today's world, regulating the competencies of health professional pharmacists is very different from regulating the quality or efficacy of a medical product, medicines. Therefore, there is need for harmonization, especially within the, which was adopted within the EAC partner states, agreeing that each country adopts an FDA institutional model of regulation. The regulation of medical devices, including diagnostic devices, has been perhaps the most fragmented. Until the late 90s, there was no clear global framework for regulating medical devices, although they were deemed to be medical products. Initial attempts by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board to implement a regulatory framework for medical devices were met with the resistance and conflict from other professions, particularly nurses, laboratory technicians, and technologists. The regulatory bodies of these professions had made attempts to fill the historical gap through expanding their mandates to include the regulation of various categories of medical devices. The ensuing conflict resulted in several instances of litigation aimed at retaining control over the market and for medical devices. Honorable Speaker, with specific product categories, in as far as how does the KFDA contribute to the Big Four? I've talked about the universal health care, which is important. I've talked about economies in terms of business. And medicines and medical devices and biological products. It might be too technical when we talk about biological products, but I know some members will understand. These are with what we call therapeutic. In medicine, we are talking of therapeutic. Therapeutic means products that can treat. So these has to be safe. They have to perform the intended function and are produced using appropriate standards. And the benefits to human health associated with their use is favorably balanced against the risk of harm from the use of such products. We also have veterinary medical products, which should also be safe, efficacious, and of good quality, and they are used in a manner that promotes human and animal health goals. This bill, Honorable Speaker, will affect the governance and institutions arrangements in that it is intended to strengthen the Pharmacy and the Poisons Board to become a regulatory authority. The development of the KFDA bill has moved in tandem with the ongoing regional integration, particularly within the East African community. One of the successful ventures is the harmonization of regulatory agreements within the EAC, which was done in the EAC's as an EAC scientific directive on establishment of FDA by member states. What is the current status? Currently, within the EAC countries, countries like Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, have what we call regulatory authority. And it's only in Kenya that we are lagging behind. Therefore, it is important for us to be able to adopt this so that we can move as a country. The rationale for the proposed integration of the regulation of food and drugs is anchored on the tenets of science, particularly toxicology. That is, all chemicals and biological substances are potentially poisonous to humans, whether in their natural state and under normal conditions of use or when prepared, used or applied inappropriately. Such chemical or biological substances can enter the human body through food, animal or plant origin, whether raw or cooked, processed or unprocessed, or medicines and medical products of all forms, including human vaccines and human blood for transfusing, or medical devices and products used to diagnose disease, or cosmetic products or through veterinary medicines, when administered to food-producing animals or through various chemicals used in agriculture, industrial, or mining applications. Under Article 43 and 46 of the Constitution, every person is guaranteed the right to the highest attainable standard of health and the right to be free from hunger and to have adequate food of acceptable quality and the protection of their health, safety, and economic interest, respectively. The responsibility to ensure that food and drugs are safe for human consumption is therefore that of both the national government and the county governments. This is based on the fact that while the national government has the general responsibility to develop policies on health, agriculture, and veterinary sciences, the county governments has the obligation to implement such policies. The Health Act number 21 of 2017 is the overarching legislation providing for the regulation of healthcare service providers, healthcare products, and health technologies. Section 62 of the Health Act recommends for the establishment of a single regulatory body for health products and technologies. The single regulatory framework contemplated under Section 62 of the Health Act has assigned the functions to, inter alia, licensed health products and health technologies, licensed manufacturers and distributors of health products, conduct laboratory testing and inspection of manufacturing, storage and distribution facilities of health products and technologies, control of clinical trials, conduct advertising and promotion, post-marketing surveillance for quality, safety, and disposal of health products and health technologies, and regulate contractors for medical devices and physical security for products including radioactive materials and biological products. The Health Act further provides that the legislation contemplated under Section 62 shall provide for the granting of marketing approval only by technically competent body after appropriate assessment has established that such a product generally meets the recognized standards and approval made subject to conditions, notably with respect to the conduct and content on promotion and advertising. Honorable Speaker, despite the proposed establishments of a single regulatory body to regulate the health products and technologies and the provision on the grant of marketing approval only by technically competent body, under the Health Act 2017, the bill under Clause 12 provides that the primary object of the proposed establishment of the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority, herein referred as the authority, shall be inter alia provide for the regulation, investigation, inspection, and approval of food, health products and technologies, and related matters in the public interest, and to ensure adequate and effective standards and guidelines for regulation of health products and technologies. Additionally, the bill prohibits, under Clause 79, the advertising of any health product and technology without the written permission of the authority. Further, the bill mandates the authority under Clause 113 to inter alia develop regulations with respect to the labeling and packaging and the offering, exposing and advertising for sale of food, drugs, health products, and technologies, and provide the manner and procedure in which clinical trials may be conducted in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I know there have been in other quarters expressions of fear in as far as regulation of food products are concerned. What we agreed with the Committee on Health is that only matters that are not health-related in as far as food regulation is concerned, those that are managed by other departments like agriculture, they are not going to be touched in this bill, and we are in concurrence with that. So as I move this bill, I want to ask those who are outside there listening to this bill not to fear, because we will not interfere with other areas. We will only be able to have in this bill that is health related, those that are managed especially by the public health officers within the Ministry of Health. Anything that is not within the Ministry of Health, we are not going to touch in this bill is concerned. Honorable Speaker, this bill will also have various departments within it. What we call the advisory committees. And under these advisory committees, we will have medicines, medical devices, biologicals, therapeutic products committee, and scientific advisory committees, such as advisory committee on prescription medicines. We'll have advisory committee on the safety of medicines. We'll have advisory committee on medical devices. We'll have advisory committee on complementary medicines. We'll have advisory committee on biologicals. Advisory committee on safety of vaccines. As you are aware, with the COVID issue now, vaccines is a major issue. But among other vaccines, we have other vaccines. So you'll have an advisory committee on vaccines. And for the scheduling of substances, you'll have advisory committee on medicine scheduling and advisory committee on chemical scheduling. For the regulation of clinical trials, a national health ethics committee. Right now, if you want to approve for any trials, you either seek for the approval from the Kenyatta National Ethics Committee, but we need to have a national advisory committee on ethics. What we'll be calling a national health ethics committee that approves any clinical trials within our country. On combating antimicrobial resistance, a national antimicrobial stewardship advisory committee, because more often you find that people go over the counter and you ask, you are even buying antibiotics over the counter without prescriptions. If you went to other countries like United States or in European countries, you can never, even South Africa, you can never buy antibiotics over the counter. Because that leads into what we call antimicrobial resistance. For the prevention and control of poisoning, a national poisons information service and provisions for the designation of poison centers. You find people have taken in some poisons in whatever corner it is. We need to be, how do you access information on what you need to do in as far as poisons are concerned? These are emergencies. People have taken rat. You are in the corner of Kapuchai. I have seen the Honorable Kalasinga. You can be able to call the National Poison Center and be able to be advised, even the doctor who is there, on what to do. For appeals from decisions made under the KFDA Act, we'll have the Kenya Food and Drugs Tribunal. I know this is a tribunal that will have a lot of activities, because where do you appeal in case of any issues like that? So, Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I know this is a very interesting bill. It's a bill that I really want to compliment the Committee on Health for. They have put a lot of energy in this. They have put a lot. I know the chair, wherever she is, she's listening, but Ward Chief is here representing her and the committee. I saw Honorable Eseli Simiu. I saw Honorable Dr. Nyikala around. They've put a lot of energies on this bill. And I know this is a bill that even the Ministry of Health, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, they put a lot on this bill. And all the stakeholders, Path International also, our partners have put a lot in this. I want to appreciate Path for their role in terms of putting a lot of efforts in this. John Paul, wherever you are, and your team, thank you very much for supporting this bill. Honorable Speaker, this is a bill that will revolutionize drugs and medicines within this country.
The Honorable Bukose, these thanks and other compliments, I think we can do it once you've heard what the other members have, so that you don't thank this one.
Yes,
and then it turns out that the ones who support you more are even the newer and who have spoken later.
Yes, I'll thank them when they contribute. Yes, Honorable Speaker, thank you for that guidance. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the House that let's support this bill. This is a bill that is good for our country. It's a bill for future generations, and we should also be able to benefit as a generation from this bill. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to move the bill and ask Ward Chief to second.
Now, you know, that is a name not known to records, so I'm trying and struggling to know who is this Ward Chief. But if you mean the Honorable Martin Owino, the member for Ntewa, that other name is not on record. I'm told it is somewhere as he passes a few constituencies closer to his. That's when that name kicks, you know, into the mind of members of his constituency. Yes. Yes.
Honorable Martin Owino, also known as Ward Chief.
Now that's better.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
then
you.
Honorable Chief Owino then.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me, son of a chief. My dad was a chief. I'm so happy to second this bill, Mr. Speaker. And on behalf of the various members of Health Committee, I also want to thank Honorable Pukosi for his indulgence. Mr. Speaker, we have tossed him back and forth in order to have some agreement on this bill, because it was touching several acts, and through the public participation, we had to harmonize some of these acts. I also want to say up front that we did have the two ministries, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health, to sit together also to deliberate on this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to second Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill number 31, 2021, because this is going to protect consumers. I think that is the key word we can use here. Mr. Speaker, I had a chance to go to China, and our mission was, why are they exporting substandard things to Kenya? And we saw a raft of different categories of commodities, and you choose for yourself. Then I say, why did we get all this coming through our borders? It comes to the same thing we are talking now, the regulatory authority. It is upon us to admit what is coming to the country and what should not come. I think this is what this bill is going to address. That said, Mr. Speaker, I must also emphasize that we did, as a committee, have amendment which he alluded to, and I'm happy he has done that the issue of drugs and the issue of food is quite different. And the definition of food is different. The nutrition is also controlled by the Nutritionist Council. The issue of livestock was clouding drugs as well. The issue of pesticides, fertilizers, and the capabilities of implementing this bill, if passed as it was going to be very difficult. So I thank Dr. Pukosi because he agreed that we can separate the drugs from the food. So in that amendment, which will come at the Committee of the Whole House, the title will be affected, and the responsibility will also be different because the food will be under agriculture. This bill is addressing safety issues of the health products and technology. Health depends on the quality of the products that we allow to come into our country. And Mr. Speaker, if you are subjected to substandard items or supplies into your body, let's say for drugs, the organisms might not be sensitive to them, and the disease progression will continue for sure, and you will have more complications. So it is important that this bill, if passed, will strengthen the regulatory authority to do that. The other issue is the quality of the substance. Safety is one thing, but the quality is also another thing. Something can be safe, but it's not of good quality. So it is addressing that. All those two, if addressed properly, will also give birth to efficiency. And in health, efficiency is very vital. Because if there is delayance in even supplies we are talking about, because they are subjected to substandard regulations, then even people will die. Or if they come late when the disease has progressed, and that we will be dealing with another level of care. The Speaker, the issue of UHC has been mentioned by the originator, and that is also anchored on the value of health. If flow products are administered into the body and you don't get well, even getting back to the hospital would be a big problem. That's why many Kenyans are now looking for alternative medicine. So this bill is trying to cure that when we allow the products, the doctors prescribe it, we know it is of good quality and it will add value to health. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is the control of what to buy over the counter and what not to buy used to be enforced by Pharmacy and Poison Board. But that's not happening. Anybody can walk into any establishment, especially chemists, and buy what you want. So we hope when this is enacted, it will add more power to control of our drugs. Otherwise, I want to yield my time to members to comment on this because we dealt with it as a Committee of Health for a long time. But I think it is a good thing. And in closing, I just want to make sure you understand that the bill is moved as is, but there are amendments that are coming which will separate this bill from drugs and food. And food will be under the agriculture, and the agriculture is developing another bill for food separately. This is because we also ventured into many countries which has combined them and found that they are not very effective. Tanzania is one of them, which went the whole thing, Food and Drugs Authority. Now they are trying to redo it again. The US, which is the birthplace of Food and Drug Authority, has also evolved. The name's still there, but there are sectors which has been formed separately, either to deal with food and also to deal with drugs. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
What is it, the Honorable Sotsi? What is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with us that this
How can I agree before I even get to know what you want to say? But what is out of order?
Okay, my point of order is that the mover of this bill, my good friend Dr. Pokose, clearly indicated that the doctors in this house are in agreement. Dr. Mishra, Dr. Nikal, Dr. Simeyu. But the doctors are not here, and this bill is quite technical. How I would wish that they were here so that they help us understand some of the technical issues in this bill, considering that there is no report to this bill, Mr. Speaker.
You know you are out of order, the Honorable Sotsi, because first, the Honorable Pukose did not say that. What I heard Honorable Pukose say is that the members of the Committee on Health are in agreement. But you see, that is neither here nor there, because still, the rest of the membership, committees are the secondary institutions. The primary one is the House. So members will contribute, whether they are doctors or not. Really, there should be no major issue there. So whether the doctors will be here or not, we will turn a blind eye to that one. But the leader, the majority whip, what is it?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with the permission of Honorable Sotsi, allow me to inform you as a reminder that...
Then therefore it's not a point of order, it's a point of information.
Yes.
Now then the Honorable Sotsi must accede to that. Do you want any information?
Yes, of course. Mr. Speaker, I said in the absence of a committee report, which is not there, which should have guided us,
really,
we need more information. And the doctors would be better placed.
Now the Honorable Sotsi, you see, if you are talking about the committee report, that would be a real substantial issue. The only thing is you talked about members not being here. But then there is something you did not... Do you want information from the majority whip? Okay, you accept it by nodding, so let's hear what information you have.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to appreciate my very good friend, Honorable Soti. Looking at the bill which I have with me, the bill is written in English, Honorable Speaker. It has no medical jargon in it. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I just want to inform Honorable Soti that please get a copy of this bill. It's in plain English, it's well understood, and you can debate without really being a medic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That is a problem now. You see, the Honorable Soti, the problem sometimes with accepting information. The information might not be extremely good. Now, I really didn't think that information was necessary for you. I mean, I'm sure you can see it's in English. So, but then, allow me to propose a question so that we can go to debate, which is that the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 31 of 2019, be now read a second time. Now, I will go by the order, and I see almost as usual, the Honorable Sankok is top on the list.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, because it is not by coincidence that I am called nominee 001. Even in coming to this House, Honorable Speaker, you will affirm that I come before you, Honorable Speaker, and leave after you, Honorable Speaker, because I have to earn from my sweat. Honorable Speaker,
that is
from the onset.
That is obviously correct.
Yes.
Because it depends also on, you know, there are people who should come to wait for others. And there are people who come after others have waited. Now, you belong to the first category. The Speaker obviously belongs to the other. So you are doing what you are supposed to do. So proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I really do support this bill that have been brought by a world-renowned surgeon, Honorable Dr. Pukose. Honorable Dr. Pukose have seen the problems that are Kenyan facing, especially in the upsurge of cancer, in the upsurge of non-regulated food and drugs, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I do support the Kenya Food and Drug Bill, which will give birth to the Kenya Food and Drug Bill Authority that will house all regulatory organs of all the foods and drugs in our country. Honorable Speaker, currently, regulation of food and drugs in our country is hazardous, just to say the least. Honorable Speaker, because you remember the Matiang'i and his mercury in sugar, how they came up with mercury being in sugar, or the rationale between on somebody putting mercury, which is more expensive, on sugar so that they can sell at the price of sugar, we will not have understood, Honorable Speaker. If we had such a regulatory authority, Honorable Speaker, it will be easier for us to ascertain what is true, Honorable Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, we have seen where products from the small and medium enterprises being destroyed in the pretext that they are counterfeit, they are not fit for consumption, Honorable Speaker. We have seen butcheries being paraded in media, Honorable Speaker, that what they are giving or selling to the citizen, the meat product, the preservatives are not up to standard, fit for consumption, Honorable Speaker. All these can be true, but do we have a professionalism in determining which one are not fit for consumption and which one are fit for human consumption, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, what we consume either as food supplement or medicine will eventually reflect on your health and your lifespan, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, our lifespan in Kenya is not comparable to other countries with such regulatory authorities that make sure that everything that we consume are professionally regulated, Honorable Speaker. So this bill by Honorable Dr. Pukose have come as a savior to the Kenyan citizen, who most of them are incurring a lot of medical bills courtesy of consumption of foods or medicine that are either overdose, underdose, or sometimes, Honorable Speaker, that are not fit for human consumption, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this bill is very important because I know agriculture may not, the Ministry of Agriculture may not be comfortable when we talk about food, but we are not talking about food in terms of the food contents, the grains, the beans, the vegetables. We are talking in terms of what is the medicine or what drugs are within the food products that we are talking about, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you find some animals, Honorable Speaker, are treated by veterinary doctors. They are injected, and advice given that milk cannot be consumed within 14 days of injecting this drug. Meat cannot be consumed within 1 month of treating that, such an animal, Honorable Speaker. But they end up in our marketplaces and in our tables within 3 or 4 days, because sometimes you find that a cow is not getting healed and you decide to sell the cow, Honorable Speaker. Some of these are not well regulated. Honorable Speaker, some people spray insecticides to vegetables, to tomatoes, Honorable Speaker. I come from an area where there is irrigation along our Songoro River, and I have seen tomatoes being sprayed with chemicals. I think they call it, I don't remember the name of the chemical, and they spray so that it can become bigger or it can ripen. And the following day, it is in our tables, Honorable Speaker. Is it fit for human consumption? Is it the cause of the upsurge of cancer? That is what Honorable Dr. Pukose is trying to address. And being a medic and a world-renowned surgeon, Honorable Speaker, he must have had it firsthand from the experience, because up to now, Honorable Dr. Pukose offers free medical treatment and surgeries to his constituents whenever he is at his constituency. Honorable Speaker, so I know this is a well-informed bill, Honorable Speaker, because of the problem that we are facing, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, cosmetics are even worse, Honorable Speaker, and they need to be regulated, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, because our ladies are so much into looking beauty and attracting more men at the expense of looking into their kidneys and looking into their organs that may fail because of the overdose of some of these chemicals that are used in lightening their skin. Honorable Speaker, the skin are lightened by drugs that destroy melanin, Honorable Speaker. And sometimes for these cosmetics to stick into our bodies, you need a sticker, and most of the time they are heavy metals like lead and mercury. If you use them in your lipstick, Honorable Speaker, and also in our, if you use them in our lipstick, Honorable Speaker, you may end up even giving the same mercury and other poisonous chemicals to even our spouses, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Pukose talked about maturity level 3, which enable us to have products that we can sell beyond our borders, Honorable Speaker. Currently, it is only South Africa and Ghana that their drug and pharmaceutical products are at maturity level 3, meaning they can sell and get foreign exchange beyond their borders. But for us, Honorable Speaker, we produce them within our borders and use them within our borders because we cannot be able to sell because we are not regulating them, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this bill also and this authority will be able to regulate prescription-only medicine, Honorable Speaker. In Kenya, you can buy antibiotics over the counter. You go to other countries, you must have a doctor's prescription and a doctor that is known, Honorable Speaker, so that we don't have people using medicine that will end up having resistance or even side effect to the one using, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I can give an example of an antibiotic like penicillin. Yes, it may be penicillin. We also have some other antibiotics like cephalosporins, like ceftriaxone, Honorable Speaker, but the common citizen don't understand that these two have a common thing called beta-lactam ring, which is the cause of resistance from bacteria that produce beta-lactamase, Honorable Speaker, that break down the ring, Honorable Speaker. So you end up having cross-resistant, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, lastly, because I see my time is up, I'll also employ upon Dr. Pukose to allow us bring an amendment to include regulation of assistive devices used by persons with disability. I have a bill in this House that NHIF will be able to cover the provision of assistive devices to persons with disability. What I use as a person with disability, like crutches, caliper, and wheelchairs, Honorable Speaker, hearing aids, is a prescription equipment. What I use may not be used by Honorable Danita. Honorable Speaker, if you end up having somebody who was able to use crutches being given a wheelchair, he will end up becoming more disabled because of the dormancy that come with a wheelchair. Otherwise, you will have exercise using crutches, running up and down, Honorable Speaker. So I will also imply Dr. Pukose.
Very well, thank you, 001. Let me have the member for Ingembe South, the Honorable Muringi Paul.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. This bill is a very important bill, Madam Speaker. The regulations which are existing currently, they ought to be regulated further to put more safety to the use of medicine, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it normally is saying that a health country is a health country. When we will regulate this sector, Madam Speaker, it will help us to receive medicine of good quality, because sometimes the drugs or the medicine which are sold in our country, Madam Speaker, without regulation, they are of substandard and others of low quality. So when we pass this bill, Madam Speaker, the medicine will be of good quality. Madam Speaker, also the marketing of the medicine. Without regulation, Madam Speaker, our economy will not grow, because we have some products which, when, Madam Speaker, to medicine, they can earn this country foreign exchange. But without good regulation, Madam Speaker, we will not get market outside there. So this will help us to market something which is of good substance outside there. Then, Madam Speaker, our people who normally seek medical attention now and then, they will be safe, because the medicine and the care they will receive when receiving this medicine will be of good quality, because there are those regulations which are put in place. Madam Speaker, in most cases, some of the medicine which are sold over the counter, there are no advice given to patients. You can buy whatever medicine you want to buy without getting any restriction. And Madam Speaker, that tend to misuse medicine. Also, Madam Speaker, the advertisement of the medicine. Honorable Kose has clearly elaborated that in order for anybody to advertise the medicine, the subscriptions must be authorized by the regulation so that somebody cannot or would not advertise something which is not of good substance. Also, Madam Speaker, the nutrition level, the nutrition content of the medicine being sold also will be or it will be enriched with the nutrition, because there are some or there are a board which is overseeing it and which is regulating it, so that at least the people consuming it cannot be harmed or affected by the medicine. Also, Madam Speaker, the risk people encounter when you use a substandard medicine, because some of the people die because of using medicine which is not subscribed or medicine which is not of which is of a low quality. Madam Speaker, now the quality and the medicine being used or being sold, Madam Speaker, will be of good quality, and our people will be in good health. Also, Madam Speaker, this will help to improve our health facilities within our country, whereby most of the people will be rushing there to get this medicine because they are of good quality. Also, Madam Speaker, when we strengthen the advisory board, none of the private medical facilities, which normally people are open to fetch money, will be existing, because those ones will be regulated by these advisory boards, Madam Speaker, and our people will be in a safe country where quality health is offered, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also, the people who misuse the medicine, who use it for the wrong purposes, will not get that loophole of using or misusing the medicine with the people. So, Madam Speaker, this bill is a good bill, and it is a bill which will enable regulating or which will enable our health facilities to grow well, and also our people to live well. With those, Madam Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Very well. The member for Gilgil, the honorable member represent the people of Gilgil, the honorable Wanchira Wangari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My mic?
Give him the mic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this bill. And Madam Speaker, the reason maybe we would have more confidence is the mover of the bill as a medical practitioner. And in terms of the need for the bill, Madam Speaker, we are in agreement. And this bill was conceptualized, I see it was published in 2019. That was even before we were really hit by the COVID pandemic. The need for this control has actually been amplified in the last 2 years, because, and many members in this house will agree, like for the last 3 months, let's say, or so, or 6 months, 3 to 6 months, the number of burials that we have had to attend as members of parliament and many families that have suffered are quite a big number, Madam Speaker. So in terms of, is there a need to regulate? I say definitely. But the second of the bill, I had Ward Chief, or Honorable Owino, had actually alluded to some of the issues that would concern some of us. Personally, I think the issue of drugs and medicine needs to be separated from the issue of food. One, because the conflict of the two ministries will actually arise if this goes the way it is. That is because we need the responsibility to be put where it is. And the issue of agriculture, Madam Speaker, is squarely under the Ministry of Agriculture. And it's not just about the food and the selling. It starts from the planting, the fertilizers that are used. It starts from the chemicals that are being used, and it goes all the way to the distribution, Madam Speaker. So I think we can be able to separate these two issues, and that will go a long way to ensure that it is neat as a regulation, that we don't become ambiguous, we don't leave room for manipulation, and we are clear as a House as to what needs to be done. Madam Speaker, I am very concerned about the issues that have been raised in this bill in terms of fake medicine, in terms of substandard medicine, but even as we look at universal healthcare services in this country, this needs to go hand in hand, that we do not harass the villagers who are just really looking for help in terms of buying medicine. We take care of both their welfare and make sure that we get the accessibility and affordability considered. And this now goes to the role of the counties in this whole issue, Madam Speaker. Why I say that? I have a village called Thogono in Gilgil. If someone wants to get a doctor's prescription, they will have to go to Gilgil town or go to Nakuru town. You'll spend 1,000 shillings to go get a prescription, which is maybe an emergency. So unless these things are locally available, it will still become very hard to actually implement. And I say that because just a few years ago, we had the Pharmacy and Poisons Board tried to even effect the banning of the selling of, say, Viagra on the counter. And why? Is because it's supposed to be prescribed by a doctor. But how many today are buying it over the counter? How many are dying from those unprescribed and uncontrolled products? I think, Madam Speaker, this issue has to be looked at holistically in terms of getting the healthcare close to the people. And I have said it before, Madam Speaker, and the counties need to take note of this, that we must separate the issue of primary healthcare and that of referral healthcare. Let us localize the issue of immunization, the issue of family planning, the issue of malaria, diarrhea, all those things, Madam Speaker, or ailments should be handled at the local level, in the dispensaries and in the health centers. That would now ease or make it easy for referral hospitals to deal with more complicated matters that will be referred to them. So I think we can be able to look at it that way. And Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about the issue of regulation. And I say that because in this country, even when we introduce the curfews and the restrictions in restaurants, we have seen people, corrupt people, maybe in the police, in the regulation institutions, taking advantage to also harass genuine people who are working and doing their business. And I say that because if you look at the role of the board or of this authority, Part N, that says that the board can appoint inspectors and order inspection of any premises. That, Madam Speaker, is quite open-ended, and if it's not regulated itself, would amount to abuse. It can easily be manipulated just to harass people who are doing genuine business. So I hope that this will be able to come out clearer as in the raft of the amendments that have been touched on by the seconder of the bill. I say that because in this country, Madam Speaker, just 2 years ago, I had an issue of hawkers in a toll station in Gilgil. And they seized some items. They just took them and said they are substandard and destroyed them without a court order, without a legal way to explain to even the people who are affected. And they burnt them before you even have a recourse. And also, Madam Speaker, if you remember, just a few years ago, the president had gone to destroy some drugs that had been seized. And someone came with a court order. So I have seen the issue of roping in the judiciary in the bill. And if you look at part 24, Madam Speaker, it gives you the leeway. It says a person who has reasons to believe that a food which the person has processed, manufactured, or distributed is not in compliance with this act, any law, the person shall immediately initiate procedures to withdraw the food. So there has to be clear mechanisms of lodging complaints or lodging issues about foods and withdrawal of the same, that does not give room for witch hunt, does not give room for business rivalry to thrive, that does not give room for manipulation of the same to actually witch hunt person or a competitor. Madam Speaker, on the issue of food, and I think this, we have said it before, we have seen sugar being contaminated, we have seen aflatoxin in maize, and Madam Speaker, the effect that have actually gone to foods that are not healthy or are not good for human consumption now affect the health. So in terms of are they interrelated? Yes, the issues of food and drugs and medicine are interrelated, but I think we should separate them so that we have a clear way of dealing with them in each ministry, that is agriculture and health. Madam Speaker, the role of the counties needs to come here very strongly. I say that because by the Constitution and Schedule 4, the issue of agriculture are devolved, the issue of health, the implementers are mostly the counties. So we must get away of not centralizing what has already been taken to the counties. We centralize the issue of policy, but the implementation must bring into board or on board the counties and the organizations in the county. I say that because when the health is not working, we always actually take it to the counties. But in this one, we should retain it to be an issue of policy and the implementation to loop in the counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just recently, we were dealing with the issue of vaccines. And Madam Speaker, you know this COVID, nobody had a marking scheme on how to deal with it, nobody in the world. It has really taught us a lot of things. And just recently there was an uproar that some vaccines had been taken by one person or an interested party and to start distributing. And Madam Speaker, that is where now we will start losing this war even in vaccines. We must get the government to be the one squarely responsible for these vaccines. I say that because that will mean the issue of non-tested, the issue of vaccines that are not up to standards will be eliminated. And Madam Speaker, the government can take the responsibility squarely so that we don't just open it up for economical value or for political value. That way, Madam Speaker, we will lose it. And I hope that we will be able to take control squarely of the issues of vaccines, just the way we do even with children. The issue of polio, we take it to every house. And I hope that the Committee of Health will actually ensure that even this COVID vaccine, we must get to a level that we actually make it a mandatory vaccine. Let us help gain the hard immunity that we desperately need so that we are able to deal with it. In fact, Madam Speaker, I was wondering the other day, why would we even open it up to teachers to decide whether they want to be vaccinated? I think we need to get to the level where even when the Ministry of Health go to Kavonokia and they say they don't take vaccines, they're actually taken by force and even arrested. I think we should actually make them mandatory. But with those many remarks, with those reservations, I beg to support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Suba North, Honorable Hadiambo Accord. Millie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank Honorable Pokose for bringing this bill. Madam Speaker, as he was moving, I was a little concerned initially because I thought he meant that there is no legislative framework. But he clarified that there is indeed a legislative framework, but that he is seeking to make it better, which is indeed good. Madam Speaker, in fact, as Kenyans, if there's one thing that we have in this country, it's a very strong legislative framework. Our challenge usually is on the implementation. And therefore, I would want to encourage us as a country that we need to focus very strongly on ensuring that we implement what we pass. Madam Speaker, I'll try to be very brief because I've actually only read a little bit about this law, but I want to indicate as a first that one of the things that we must do as a country is the way the world is moving is towards specialization. We have countries that are now moving towards medical tourism. And for you to effectively have medical tourism, Madam Speaker, it means you must have very clear standards for people to be able to have faith and trust in you as a country, as a medical tourism destination. Madam Speaker, that is why you find that a lot of Kenyans are headed towards India, because they have regulated and provided standards. That is why Turkey is also becoming another destination for medical tourism. Madam Speaker, you find the same with other categories, Madam Speaker. And as a country, even as we look at social issues that affect us, we must also learn that we must manage a country as a commercial entity for it to make sense, because the era of charity is long gone, and countries must know that you must have a competitive edge as a country in order for you to attract investment. The era when the donors would come into the country and throw in a lot of money because we are poor African countries is long gone. Countries must take care of themselves. And in that process, you must build your capacity over something. And Kenya has opportunity, not just in food, but in medicines. And that is why this bill is very, very important. As an agricultural country, we have an amazing wealth of food. I'm really shocked if you look at even the countries that are allowed to export their fish to other countries, Madam Speaker. Yet we actually produce fish in such huge amount and quantities. But how do we then ensure first in terms of production that we reach areas that traditionally have that sort of expertise? Like, for instance, why do we want to put a lot of energy for fish in Thika when you have Suba North as the producer of fish? Why don't we build their capacity there? Why do we want to diversify tea into other areas when we know that Kericho and other places in central Kenya are doing very well? How do we then make our tea more marketable elsewhere? But, Madam Speaker, above all, it's an issue of standardization, so that our products are not trusted just within, but outside the country. And that is why, Madam Speaker, I am happy, because I was worried that we have not provided for one category that is very significant, but I've actually gleaned through, and I've seen that we've made provision for herbal medicine. If you look at a lot of the medicines that are used for all manner of treatments, most of them are actually herbal. And if you ask our forefathers, and you don't even need to ask our forefathers, even our parents know that there are certain medicines that will be struggling with very major, diseases that, in the conventional medicine can't cure. And all your grandmother does is tell you to swallow or chew some herb, and you are as good as, new. But we have not equally invested in that, and that's why I'm happy that we are actually, if you look at their definition about food, herbal medicines, and therapeutic cosmetics. So, Madam Speaker, I am actually happy that we are investing in that as well. Madam Speaker, Kenya has become an end user for therapeutic cosmetics. And unless we provide standards, there are actually things that are not allowed in other countries. Like in the US, the FDA authority will not allow certain cosmetics that we use here in Kenya, especially for lightening skin. I don't know why our girls cannot just, be okay with this beautiful skin color that we have. But because it's a right, and some people would want to lighten their skins, how safe are those cosmetics? So that we don't then make people suffer with different cancers merely because we didn't provide for standards. Madam Speaker, again, as I indicated, because I was away on parliamentary duty, I have not had time to look exhaustively at this, but I'm going to look at it especially in reference to those core areas that I've spoken about. I'm very passionate about medicinal herbal medicines, or medicinal plants. I did my first master's on intellectual property rights on plant genetic resources and realized, Madam Speaker, that we are actually missing a lot in terms of the resources that we have here that we take for granted and that are amazing. Perhaps, Madam Speaker, there may be a cure in COVID on our medicinal herbs, but we do not invest in them. We take them for granted. So I'm going to look at this, and I want to thank Honorable Pukose for seeking to bring this bill and to better our standards and to make us as a country more marketable, and also as a destination country, even for medical tourism. But I'm hoping that we can use this together with other standards to elevate our country. And those standards, of course, will include security and infrastructure. Madam Speaker, if there's one thing that we can take away as members of parliament whenever we go on trips abroad, you know, the benchmarking, really there should be something that comes out of that. It's an embarrassment that sometimes you see countries that shouldn't be where they are and shouldn't be competing at an even kill with us are way ahead of us. Why? Because we have allowed corruption to take center stage. Countries like Rwanda come to copy Kenya and implement what we have in a blueprint. They come and implement what we have in laws. So I'm actually encouraging us that we need to go beyond what we pass and to make sure that we implement. Otherwise, I do support. Thank you.
Very well, Honorable Millie. Let me have the member for Tharaka, the Honorable Murugara Gitonga.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me add my voice to this bill. And from the outset, I'm a little bit taken aback because Honorable Ososi was asking for doctors to come and interpret this bill for us. And he was told by the Chief Whip that this is in simple English and everybody can actually understand it. And when I look at this bill, it does one simple thing, which is to establish an authority that will deal with the food, drugs, and chemical substances. When I look at the legal framework, which is what Honorable Ososi should have actually asked about, this bill has nothing to do with the public health and the acts made thereunder. It has nothing to do with the poisons acts that deal with medicine and what have you. This bill is actually anchored on an act of parliament, which is chapter 254 of the laws of Kenya, known as the Food, Drugs, and Chemical Substances Act. It is an act as old as we can imagine, especially when I see that its regulations were made in 1978. Therefore, this bill has nothing to do with a Food, Agriculture, and the Food Act, which deals with growing of food, husbandry of food, and what have you. This bill has everything to do with control of quality of food, drugs, and chemical substances. Therefore, as we debate, we need to make it very clear that we cannot introduce amendments to deal with how we grow food, how food is distributed, and what have you. It has to deal with how you package food, how you actually store it so that you offer it for consumption. The same applies to drugs. How you manufacture drugs, how you package drugs, and how you offer those drugs for sale. And other chemical substances, including cosmetics and therapeutic substances. So having said so, this act is actually very timely because since the enactment of the Food, Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, Chapter 254 of the laws of Kenya, we have had no one to implement the act and the regulations made thereunder. From my practice of law, I know for sure that in Nairobi, even the defunct Nairobi City Council askaris used to try and enforce that act. They would raid supermarkets to go and see whether the food, drugs, and whatever chemicals, substances are in there do conform with the main act. And they would be looking for this. Does the food have storage instructions? And this is what this act deals with. Does the food have an expiry date? This is what exactly is covered by this act. If they were not able to understand the rest of it because of complexity of the issues involved, they would have to run to the Poisons Board, or they would have to run to Kenya Bureau of Standards to try and interpret whether the act was being complied with or not being complied with. What came out of it was a maze that people would not understand who was actually supposed to enforce that act. And now, because of that default, Honorable Pukose, the Health Committee, and all the other stakeholders have come up with a bill to establish an authority that would take charge of the Food, Drugs, and Chemical Substances Act and the regulations that are made thereunder. This is the bill we have today. This is the bill we are debating. And if I'm wrong, then the Honorable Pukose can actually inform me. I give him that permission. So having said so, this appears to be a thorough bill. And it is satisfactory to all intents and purposes. Because we need an authority to which, number one, we are able to establish the food that we have everywhere, in the supermarkets, in the hotels, wherever the food is compliant with the standards that are set by the Standards Act or by whatever other act of parliament that we are supposed to have. Similarly, we have to have an authority which will tell us the drugs we are consuming, the drugs we are buying from wherever, whether across the counter, whether from chemists or wherever, are drugs that are in conformity with the standards. And for sure, you know, standards are found in various acts. Almost every aspect of every good as an act of parliament that deals with the standards, including the Standards Act itself, which has various categories of these are the standards applicable to food, these are the standards applicable to drugs, chemicals, whatever substances we're talking about. So this act needs to be passed. It has been lying around since 2019. And thank heavens that it has now come to the House. We hope to complete its debate today. And if we do that, then we are able to pass the act and it is implemented immediately. And that will be to the benefit of the country. There are various issues that are dealt with. I did not go through this because I've looked at them. They are actually what an authority should do. It's an authority established under the Act. There are requirements on how it is going to be established, who is going to sit in it. We have provisions regarding what are its responsibilities. And exactly what we are saying, it's going to be on the manufacture, on the packaging, on distribution of food, drugs, and chemical substances. And when we propose to make a detachment of the food element from the drugs, then I will have a problem with what I would call the Parent Act, because it deals with the three aspects in one act. So how do we detach? Because we do so, then it means we have also to detach the other main act. And that is going to be a little bit awkward to everybody. Then we have various schedules to it, which are actually supposed to be part of what the authority is going to do. But most important, and what I wish to comment, the sponsor and the move of the bill is section 114 of the proposed bill, that we will have regulations No, it is 113. Section 113 in the miscellaneous provisions part, which is part, can't read Roman, this looks like 15, where the authority has to make regulations, which regulations encompass almost everything the act, the main act itself, deals with, including how you can manufacture your food, what additives you can put into that, and everything else. All this is exactly what the Food, Drugs, and Chemical Substances Act deal with. Therefore, this is intra-vires, that act, and it should actually be passed as it is so that the authority comes into force to start implementing that particular act and not this particular act. With those remarks, I beg to support that we pass this bill.
Very well. Let me have the member for Kabuchai, the Honorable Majimbo Kalasinga. Majimbo Kalasinga,
yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute in this very important bill of Dr. Okose. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, is that when you see this bill being given name, Food and Drugs, Madam Speaker, in the first place, Madam Speaker, this, unless taken to amendment, as Honorable Owino said, is going to create serious confusions. In the first place, Madam Speaker, when you talk of food, we have food that move from the farm to the fork, Madam Speaker. Farm from the fork means this food cannot reach the medical levels. Like if you go to the farm and harvest, and you take the pot to cook, it's from farm to fork, Madam Speaker. Such are very serious things, Madam Speaker. If we put together under food and drug, Madam Speaker, it will bring us serious confusions. But as we go to this, Madam Speaker, when you look at food safety, it always is taken serious. It's a procedure, Madam Speaker. You find, Madam Speaker, that when the first product of this food process, Madam Speaker, is a raw material of another process, Madam Speaker. Stage 1, Madam Speaker, and stage 2 and stage 3 is a process. So, Madam Speaker, if we talk of this being one, we are going to have that. When we look at, Madam Speaker, it is the department. It will be the Department of Food and Agriculture, Madam Speaker, that will give us the real traceability in case we have a food problem. You look at an issue like Madam Speaker, like aflatoxin. This originates from the farm, Madam Speaker.
Order. There is this member, honorable member. I don't want to mention your name today. You must go back. You cannot just cross over. You must go back to the back, bow. All the way. You bow, and then now you come to have your seat. Remember, you can continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope my time will be taken considered, Madam Speaker. Now, Madam Speaker, when you look at this bill, I have taken time to study this, Madam Speaker. I realize that this bill, Madam Speaker, is borrowing much from one very serious FDA of America, Madam Speaker. In FDA, Madam Speaker, this is an act, this is a body that was formed in 1927, Madam Speaker, in US. This has had serious challenges from where it originated, Madam Speaker. And this has, at the moment now, metamorphosized. It has improved the separation. It has tried to put food separate from drugs, Madam Speaker. And that's why, Madam Speaker, if you come to the same, where we are borrowing it, an act of 1927, Madam Speaker, as at now, we have different bodies that are now handling these two different things. One, we have the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Madam Speaker. We have the Environment Protection Agency, Madam Speaker. We have the Center for Drugs and Evaluation and Research, Madam Speaker. We have the Center for Biologists and Evaluation and Research. We have the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, Madam Speaker, and others, Madam Speaker. So when we look at it, Madam Speaker, even where we want to borrow this from, it has separated itself. Madam Speaker, if we move like this, I want also to say this, Madam Speaker, that now back in our country, when we want to see what we have as underfood in agriculture, Madam Speaker, we have serious, like we have the AFA, Madam Speaker. This is the Agriculture and Food Allied. We have the Directorate of Livestock Production. Madam, in Kenya, we have the Director of Veterinary Services. We have CALRO. We have KEPS. We have other bodies, Madam Speaker. We have Kenya Dairy Board. We have all these, like Kenya Fisheries and Services. We have Kenya Marine Fisheries. We have KEFIS. We have the National Biosafety Authority, Madam Speaker. All these are bodies that give capacity, the Department of Agriculture, to test food, Madam Speaker. So as I agree with the mover of this, Madam Speaker, I also agree with the amendment, so that we can separate these two. Have the food department, then have the drug department. That will give this kind of good motion, and I will support this, Madam Speaker. Thank you, and I'm...
The member for Tigania West, the Honorable Mutunga Kayuthia. The member for Tigania West, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to also add my voice to this. Honorable Speaker, I have strong background in agriculture, and I would like to be very useful to this House. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by thanking the Honorable Dr. Pukose, Robert, for sponsoring this particular bill, and for putting in a lot of effort and maintaining the momentum for the period he has been pushing for this particular bill. He points out very clearly that the regulation of medicines, the regulation of pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical practice, the regulation of food, the regulation of scheduled substances, therapeutics, and even cosmetics, Madam Speaker, and medical devices are related in this particular respect. Madam Speaker, I would like to point out that this is a huge legislation which has 15 parts and 115 clauses. So it's a huge law, it's a big law. Honorable Speaker, as a member of the Agriculture Committee, we have had an opportunity to interrogate this particular bill. And we interrogated this bill with respect to asking ourselves the basic question: should we support passing this bill as it is, or should we propose for or recommend separation of food and drugs? Madam Speaker, I will give specific reasons why we should actually separate food from drugs. As a committee, we examined the bill at length, and particularly, Madam Speaker, we looked at the clauses touching on food and the way these clauses are sitting within the bill itself and what kind of provisions have been proposed within this particular bill. There are certain concerns which, as a committee, we would wish to bring to the attention of this House. Even as we make a decision, then we make an informed decision. Honorable Speaker, the philosophy of control of medicines is very markedly very different from that of the food. Food, as the Honorable Member has stated, is from the farm to the fork. There are many processes that are involved. There are many institutions that are involved. It is actually what we are calling a multi-institutional, multi-sectoral in terms of the handling. Madam Speaker, there are certain ways which we need to look at in terms of the control of these two, food and drugs. And I would like to highlight specifically about the drugs. When it comes to medicine, Madam Speaker, approval and registration of the product is necessary for the medicine. Approval and registration of food is not necessary. Madam Speaker, it is important to note that when the registration for food is not necessary, we do not need an institution to regulate registration of food. There is also huge and intensive efficacy trials of medicines before they are authorized and released for use. There is nothing like that required for food. Food is produced, as long as it is safe for consumption and as long as it has the right ingredients or the right provisions in terms of minerals and other provisions, then it is given for people to eat. The third issue, Honorable Speaker, is that each product is approved by a specific disease, is approved for a specific disease. Each medical product is approved for a specific disease or a group of diseases that are related in terms of medicine. On the other hand, food is basically tied to the natural metabolism of the body. It responds to the functional aspects of the body, the physiology of the body. We eat so that we can be able to move on, to grow, to basically have the energy to play and do other things. Honorable Speaker, the fourth issue that is important and glaring is that reporting of the side effects is mandatory for medicine. On the other hand, when it comes to food, reporting of allergenicity, or rather the allergens that could be found in food, and the intolerance levels is what is required. So there's a clear difference between the two. Honorable Speaker, finally, for medicines, the market authorization of medicines, which we may, basically, the market authorization holders of medicine is responsible for the documentation. On the other hand, the authorization in terms of food is multi-sectoral, it is multi-institutional, and I'll be able to enlist some of these institutions, Honorable Speaker, given the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, looking at the food, the safety of the food itself, as we said, is from the fork from the farm to the fork. Different agencies are involved. In this case, it is multi-sectoral, as I have indicated. And I would like to enlist the institutions that are involved, basically in governing the food safety issue. One of them is the Agricultural and Food Authority in this particular country. There is a directorate of, the Directorate of Livestock Production, which is involved in livestock production or livestock-related foods. There is a Directorate of Veterinary Medicine, which takes care of the disease control and the safety of the food. Indeed, I need to emphasize here that the Directorate of Veterinary Medicine is the Kenyan recognized competent authority. Unless the Director of Veterinary Services declares meat safe for consumption, we cannot sell outside this country. So it's the only recognized competent authority. Honorable Speaker, there is also the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, which does research for livestock and agricultural and crops in this country. There is the Kenya Bureau of Standards, we know about it, the Kenya Dairy Board in terms of milk, the Kenya Fisheries Services for fish, the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Institute for purposes of training and research on fisheries, the National Environmental and Management Agency, we all know what NEMA does, the National Biosafety Authority, the Pest Control Products Board, the Public Health Department, the State Department of Crops Development, the Veterinary Medicines Directorate, and finally, the State Department of Water. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, it is important to realize that all those institutions work in collaboration. One output of an institution becomes an input into the other institution. So in this case, we cannot just say one institution won't be able to control everything. It is impossible. Many countries have tried this, and they have come back to separate. And indeed, I would like to thank the Committee on Health, because they have realized it is not possible to combine food and drugs in one legislation. They have to be in two separate legislation. Honorable Speaker, if we look at, on the other hand, on the issue of regulation, when it comes to medicines, the regulation of medicines requires maybe one institution or two institutions. After production of the food, after production and the research of the medical substances or medicine, it has to go through efficacy trials. And after these trials, the approval process. After the approval, it is therefore passed through one body, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which therefore registers and regulates or rather controls the distribution. On the other hand, it is not possible for food. When it comes to food safety, Honorable Speaker, regulation has to be done by many institutions. Alongside these institutions, there is the need to look at, when it comes to feed, not food now, when it comes to feed, because feed also needs to be looked into. Feed is what is given to the animals. We eat animals. We eat meat, we take milk, and we eat the eggs. We eat fish as well. What gets into the fish, what gets into the milk, what gets into the meat is consumed by human beings. there is a set of diseases called zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases are those that are transferable from human to from animal to human, like diseases through milk. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, there are those substances that remain in the crops or the meat residues or the milk. In other words, the largest amount that should be contained in a specific substance so that it can be cleared, safe for human consumption. Honourable Speaker, coming back to the recent times, there are many countries have gone back to separate these legislations. The bill has quoted the Food and Drug Administration, the Food and Drug Administration has heavily borrowed from the Pure Food and Drugs of America of 1906. Honourable Speaker, the FDA must make an attempt to inject efficiency in its regulatory functions. For us to have efficiency in regulation, we must be able to ensure that these institutions are left to do their work as trained as competent authorities and experts in that area. When you look at the American case, 7 institutions are involved, not one. 7 of them are involved. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Center for Drug and Evaluation and Research, the Center for Biological Evaluation and Research, the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, the Center for Veterinary Medicine.
Your time is up. Remember, I know I can see you have a lot, but because of the interest of time, allow me to give the floor to the member. Honourable members, I think we are in almost our last year. You should be able to plan your time. But let me give you just the time to say whether you second or you don't support. Do you support or you don't support the motion?
Honourable Speaker, I support the bill be separated. We have the bill for drugs and we have the bill for food and feeds. Well. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Yes. But members, let us observe our own standing orders that we have given a time limit to a debate of a bill, of motion, or anything else that we are debating as passed by the House. The member for Kwanza, the Honourable Wanyonyi Kevin.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to echo what Honorable Mdunga has just said, and I think he didn't conclude, but basically I support the bill that Honorable Bokose has brought, and I want to say that this is a start, because I think he referred, if I got him right, he referred to 2 countries in Africa, that is South Africa and I think Ghana, who actually have come up with this regulation and this bill. But regrettably, I think we need to, much as I support this bill, Madam Speaker, I think we look at it detailed, because it's a very, very technical tier bill, and we need to have, like somebody was actually complaining, that we need to have a presentation from the committees so I can be able to look at this detailed. But however, all I would say is that this bill is a start. We need to have a regulation. We need to have an authority to be able to deal with both pharmaceutical and agriculture. And that being the case, Madam Speaker, and having asked Honorable Bokose that we are there to make amendment in the 3rd reading, my observation, and quickly I remember reading somewhere in the newspaper that Tanzania had the same approach. And eventually, they had to actually change because, Madam Speaker, it was not workable. And therefore, as I said, it's a start, it couldn't work because, Madam Speaker, they found it very difficult to actually implement this particular approach. And therefore, among other things, and I don't want to waste so much time on it, we look at this as we support Honorable Bokose for coming up with this bill, but on the 3rd reading, we'll be able to come up with the amendment so that we can also have 2 regulations, two authorities, one dealing with the control of trucks and one dealing, of course, with the medicine.
If you go out, trucks and of course medicine and of course food, you go out there, Madam Speaker, we're having a lot of people are dying. As I'm sitting here like this, my people at home are calling me. About 7 people have died. You don't even know why people are just collapsing and dying. Maybe because of the food they eat, because it's not properly regulated. The meat that is actually consumed, both chicken and whatever, and beef, is not regulated. And so people are dying for unknown diseases. So with this authority around, we'll be able to actually, you find that you are even eating food that is actually already very poisoned. So I think this is a beginning, and I want to support the bill, but then in the third reading, let's be very, very detailed as members of the parliament to be able to separate so that we can now have a formation of another authority that deals with food to regulate the intake of some of the food that we actually are having. Because people out there are dying, and of course the whole thing will be, what did you do as a member of parliament? What regulation did you have? And therefore, without wasting so much time, Madam Speaker, I support the bill, but we're now going to look at it detailedly and remove some of the issues, and maybe formation, like Mutunga was saying, have one that actually deals wholesale with the food intake in this country. I support.
You support. The Honorable Osoti, nominated.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity also to raise my voice on this very important bill. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I support this bill, but with some reservation, which, like every other member has been debating here, we will have time at the committee of the whole House to interrogate this bill further and possibly bring in amendments. And I want to agree with the members who have spoken that there is a need to actually separate food from the drugs. Madam Speaker, this is a very fundamental bill and very key, because apart from regulating the medicines, pharmaceutical practice, food, drugs, scheduled substances, cosmetic, blood, medical devices, and many other things, this bill is seeking to repeal the entire Pharmacy and Poison Board Act. It is also seeking to repeal the Food, Drugs, and Scheduled Substance Act, and it's also seeking to repeal the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. So this bill is very key. But Madam Speaker, allow me to raise concerns, because the entire leadership of the Health Committee is not in this House as we are discussing this bill. The chairperson is not here. The vice chairperson is not here. And that's why I had raised concerns earlier on, Madam Speaker, that this bill needed to be treated differently. And we are concerned because even the report was not even given to us. So in the committee of the whole House, we want the committee to take the lead so that the amendments we are going to propose to this bill, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Osoti, there is an intervention by the Honorable Member for Entebbe's, Honorable Pukose, was the...
Thank you. Without really interrupting my colleague, I just wanted to let the chair know that the vice chair was actually with me here, Honorable Kutuny, and he's appearing before another committee, so he sought my permission that he attends to other matters. And we had agreed with that the member, Honorable Wino, be able to second the motion, then I'll stay here throughout. But all that you are contributing will be captured on the Hansard, and I know the committee will be able to take whatever you are saying if there is anything that you need them to take note of. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, yes, Honorable Dr. Pukose, for that clarification. But Madam Speaker, we expect the committee to do quite a lot. the committee of the whole house so that they can guide the rest of us.
Indeed, that is very true. Please carry on.
I have a few reservations, Madam Speaker, which I would like them to be considered at the committee of the whole house. The first one is on the issue of blood. This bill seeks to also regulate blood and the blood products. And you are aware that this House passed here a bill, the Kenya Blood Transfusion Service Bill. And looking through transitional section, I do not see that included here. I can see similarities between what this bill is proposing and what we passed under the Kenya Blood Transfusion Service Bill 2020. So the committee can look at that and make appropriate amendments so that we don't end up having two pieces of legislation doing the same thing. The other issue of concern is the bill proposes to create the National Quality Control Laboratory. I don't know how this sits in with the other functions of KEBS, which could be having the same function. So I think that's another thing, especially when it comes to food. Also, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, how does it sit in? And some of these issues, because when I look at the acts to be repealed, I don't see it listed there. So maybe the committee can also look at that. Madam Speaker, I want to agree that there is need to enhance the regulations of all these products as listed because of increasing cases of cancer. Before COVID, we were burying so many people dying of cancer. We are still burying them, only that our focus, there's too much focus on COVID-19. But cancer cases are on the increase. And this could be because of our people consuming substandard and in some cases dangerous products which affect their health. The other important issue is the issue of, in terms of functions, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health. I have heard informally that the Ministry of Agriculture is not comfortable with this bill. How it would have been very important for us to also know their feelings about it so that as we make decisions on this bill, we'll be able to capture those decisions. But clearly, there is need to separate food from drugs in terms of regulation so that we don't cause confusion. Madam Speaker, there are some ambiguities which again needs to be looked at the committee of the whole house. For example, if you look at section 12, it gives the authority the powers to examine, grant, issue, suspend, cancel, and revoke licenses or permits that are issued under the Act. But when you go to section 1 or 2, Madam Speaker, it appears to be contradicting this by also giving the courts the powers to order licenses to be cancelled. I think, Madam Speaker, this will bring a lot of confusion, and some people may take advantage of this. I think the powers to issue licenses or to cancel or to revoke as a practice should be on the authority, not again shared with the courts, that you can go to court and get an order to cancel a license that has been issued to an individual. For example, a license that has been issued to a doctor to practice, or a pharmacist, someone who has been in school for 6 or more years, like Dr. Bukose here. And then you come and just go to court and get an order, and someone loses his license. I think, Mr. Speaker, those are some of the ambiguities I have noted. Otherwise, the spirit of this bill, it is in line with the WHO guidelines and the guidance, and it's something that we need to have in this country. It's long overdue. But that aspect of separation of food from drugs is very key, and we need to look at. And at the same time, Madam Speaker, this bill tries to consolidate all those various pieces of legislation into one. I don't know how it will work, because past experience, Madam Speaker, for example, under the AFA Act, which tried to consolidate various agricultural products in one bill, has not been good. That is why we are going back to the Tea Act. That is why we are going back to the sugar bill and coffee bill. So I think that is another thing that the committee needs to look at and come and advise us. Otherwise, I support the spirit of this bill, but with amendments at the committee of the whole House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Navakholo, Honorable Wangwe Emmanuel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to join my colleagues in appreciating the very educated Dr. Pukose, the member for Endebess. Those early days it was called End of the Best. Now he has formally called it End of Endebess. Honorable Speaker, this food and drug bill, I have two approaches I would want maybe to contribute to it, Honorable Speaker. There is the issue of food, which entirely is agriculture, and the issue of drug, which is entirely in the Ministry of Health. However, I have a reservation which I would want to put forward that during the Committee of the Whole House, I will be proposing amendments to that effect, Honorable Speaker. And my issue is that whereas the bill addresses very key issues, it is bringing on board various other existing acts, which now makes it very difficult for administration. And Honorable Speaker, agriculture is not just production. You cannot produce what you cannot consume. You produce something or a product to consume. The end result is what we refer to as marketing of the agricultural product. We converge in WTO, World Trade Organization, to make sense of what we produce. How are we going to integrate when it comes to marketing of food vis-a-vis marketing of drugs? That is the main issue that I'll be seeking to propose amendments so that we state clearly how are we going to integrate the two. The bill does not address that. And Honorable Speaker, we look at Kenya being a signatory to very many bodies, and we associate through agriculture on Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. Whereas in the medical world, they meet at the World Health Organization. How are we going to integrate the two and make sure that our bill, once it is ascended to, it will sort the mess in the industry, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate Honorable Bukose that he has really addressed very pertinent issues in terms of the drug side, and it is something to implore. We passed in this House a bill on medical tourism. We will be going forward to market Kenya as a medical destination. We have to have this bill in place, the one proposed by Dr. Pukose, so that when we now have drugs, we don't just have to get drugs which we cannot really make advantage of. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at what is happening in the market today, people are rushing, going for what is not really necessary, but they are calling it drugs. So through this bill, there will be very substantive observation and monitoring of the drug substance. And I want just to implore one very good country, friendly to Kenya, France, which thought it fit to actually approach the Western region where I come from, and we are now exporting a very good product called mukombera. I don't know how to call it in English. Mukombera. That product, Madam Speaker, is an African Viagra. And many of my colleagues...
You know, for me, Honorable Pukosa is shouting. You should ask for you to be informed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pukosa. He is a medical man, so he understands.
Do you want him to inform you? Maybe
yes, I will appreciate his information, Honorable Speaker.
But he should have, you know, also requested to inform me. But I heard what he said from far. I don't know.
I would say it is an aphrodisiac. 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 African, it's an herbal aphrodisiac. It enhances male's performance.
The Mukombe.
Thank you.
I'm sure Honorable Member, Honorable Wango Emmanuel cannot even pronounce it. No, that is not a doctor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for real, I'll not be able to repeat that word. It's so complex. It took Honorable Pukosa 6 years to read so that he knew what it is. But in English, generally, it enhances male performance. And Madam Speaker, why should people go onto the counter and buy blue pills? Yet we have such
thank you. There is an intervention by the Honorable Osoti. Honorable Osoti.
I think, Madam Speaker, we are confused because they say it enhances men performance. So the question is, which performance? Performance in talking, in reading, in walking, which performance? They need to be clear.
Honorable Emmanuel, please, can you clarify to the member which performance?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I like what Honorable Sos is saying. He comes from the same village like myself. And when we say male performance, we cannot say female performance. A man has only one performance other than what he thinks about. Therefore, that is what I referred to.
Okay, carry on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill, which I really appreciate by Dr. Pukosa, is really taking cognizant that we don't just market any product onto the counter and we give it to our people, as it considers the issues of herbal medicine and products. Madam Speaker, that is where I come from. The issue of herbal medicine, those early days, Madam Speaker, many of our people, our folks, were not really going to hospitals, could not really see what Honorable Sos is saying, asking male performance. Instead, we used to have some roots and herbs which were taken, and it takes effect. India, Madam Speaker, has taken the same angle, and most of the countries are doing the same. The only thing we need to have is a very well-organized body to regulate the existence of herbal medicine and products, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would want also to go to be asking Dr. Pukosa on two fronts, which maybe I'll be asking that he allows me also to propose amendments. For example, Honorable Speaker, the issue of the Director General, whom he is proposing to run the organization, Honorable Speaker. There are various qualifications which he has laid down, but the last recommendation in the bill, Honorable Speaker, is too general. He has said any other qualification. That will leave an opportunity for anybody to canvass and say this is a general provision. So it has to be very specific so that it guides the authority on who is to qualify as a Director General. Madam Speaker, I also want to appreciate the bill as it is in Article 23, which specifically qualifies as what is this person that shall not sell in terms of the food, Madam Speaker. Any food that contains any poisonous or harmful substance or is unwholesome or unfit for human consumption. Madam Speaker, that being specific, it really makes the bill very comfortable and very welcome on my side. Honorable Speaker, I also want to appreciate the bill from the issues as laid down by Honorable Mutunga. The bill is cutting across several existing bills. However, what is it that other countries have done? The history he has given us, and also the history which I have, Madam Speaker, the US tried through the FDA, the Food and Drug Authority, regulatory, but it was unable, Madam Speaker, to move forward. Instead, it is existing through 7 other agencies, Madam Speaker, being like the US Department of Agriculture, Environmental Protection Agency, Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, Center for Veterinary Medicine, and the National Center for Toxicology Research. Madam Speaker, I would want Honorable Pukose to allow so that whereas we are putting this body at the apex, during the Committee of the Whole House, let us align which are these existing bodies locally that are going to report to the right to the agency, Honorable Speaker. With that, I beg to support. Thank you.
Very well. Honourable members, let me have the Honourable Safia Danshe, the member for Marsabit County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mine is short. It is about unprescribed medication. When purchasing drugs over the counter, our patient needs to have prescription from their doctors. This, if implemented, will help the patient not to use wrong medication. So it is important for the drug store owners also to request for prescription before they sell any medication to our patient. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I beg to support.
Very well. I'm sure the Honourable Pukose and, of course, members, we have the Committee of the Whole where we can bring amendments to the bill, and the House will take votes on the same. The member for Kuria East, Honourable Kitembaya Moisori.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Naomba nianze kwa kumshukuru Mheshimiwa mwenzangu, Mheshimiwa Pukose daktari kwa mswada huu. Na niseme kwamba ninaunga mkono ila kwa marekebisho. Ni vizuri kwamba mswada huu umeonyesha kuanzia mwanzo kwamba unahusiana na kutaka kuboresha maisha ya Wakenya, upande wa madawa, upande wa lishe, na vile vile pia upande wa afya zetu. Na nimependelea sana kwamba mswada huu unalenga kuhakikisha kwamba dawa ambazo tunapata sisi wananchi wa Kenya zinakuwa ni dawa ambazo zimepeanwa kulingana na daktari ambaye ameangalia ni nini anakuandikia na kukupatia, ili kwamba ukinunua dawa unanunua dawa ambaye ni nzuri kwa ajili ya afya yako. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio maana anasema tuwe na marekebisho. Tusije tukawa na mswada ambaye badala ya kurahisisha ile kufikia huduma ya afya inakuwa kwamba unapinga ule mtu ambaye anatoka sehemu pembezoni, mfano yule mama ambaye anaishi mahali panaitwa Biasumu ama mahali anaitwa Ngochoni, kwamba asiweze kufikia kununua dawa kwa sababu hakupata daktari ambaye ataandika dawa ile ambaye inahitaji kwamba akaweze kuitumia. Kwa hivyo kuna haja ya sisi kukubali kwamba mswada huu unaendeleza maisha yetu na afya zetu, lakini pia vipengele vyake visije vikawa kwamba vinazuia kwamba tusiweze kufikia yule mtu ambaye hana uwezo ama madaktari hawako kwa karibu kuweza kupata ile ambayo tunaita ni prescription. Pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni vizuri tukubali kwamba kuna chakula na madawa yanaingiliana. Mswada huu unalenga kwamba tukaweze kudhibiti mambo haya kwa pamoja. Ni ukweli. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, unaweza ukaangalia kwamba kula chakula kizuri, tendo hilo lenyewe ni tiba. Na vile vile pia kupata dawa nzuri yenyewe naye ni tiba. Ndio maana anasema kwamba ni vizuri tustafautishe mambo haya. Yanaelekea vizuri, yanapendeza ndio, lakini ingependeza zaidi kama tumeangalia mambo ya madawa yaende katika laini yake, na yale ambayo ni ya chakula naye yaende katika laini yake. Ndio maana napendekeza kuwe na marekebisho ya kutofautisha ile ambayo ni ya madawa ikaweze kuangaliwa kivingine, na hii ambayo ni ya chakula na ikaweza kuangaliwa kivingine. Mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika, sheria nzuri ni ile ambayo inafanya kazi kwa urahisi na inaeleweka pia vile vile kwa urahisi, ili yule mama ambaye yuko pale nyumbani asije akapatikana katika ile hali ya kunyanyaswa kwa sababu sheria imetungwa iliyo ngumu yeye kuielewa. Ndio maana kutofautisha kutakuwa ni rahisi kidogo, kwa sababu tuna practice zetu, yani taratibu zetu za tangia jadi ambazo tunaishi nazo, na yule mama ambaye yuko pale kijijini yeye anajua jambo hili liko hivyo kwa sababu ni kawaida. Lakini tukiingiza katika usomi huu alafu tukamshurutisha kwamba akaweze kufuata hayo, na ni kwamba kuna sheria na yeye anajua akiondoka atachuna matawi fulani akaweze kupata tiba, basi itakuwa kwamba pia tunamzuia na kumshurutisha kwamba akaweze kuishi maisha yake kwa kuwa na wasiwasi kwamba huenda alichokuwa akikifanya na ni kizuri, basi kinakuwa kwamba ni tatizo. Kwa hivyo mimi, Mheshimiwa Spika, nina support hii sana, lakini nasema kwamba ingependeza zaidi kama tungetofautisha kwamba tukaweze kuwa na ile ambayo inaangalia mambo ya madawa ikaweze kuwa ndio hivyo ilivyo, na yale ambayo inaangalia mambo ya lishe na mambo ya chakula ikawe tofauti kama walivyofanya nchi zingine, ili kwamba tusiwe tunatengeneza sheria ambaye baada ya miaka miwili tena tutagundua kwamba haifai tena, tunarudia tena kama kwa mfano walivyosema wenzangu. Kama Marekani walianza mwaka 1921 na wao wakagundua kwamba inabidi kwamba waweze kutofautisha. Sasa sisi mbona tusianze moja kwa moja kwa kuchukua ile ambayo wazungu wanaita best practice na kuanza hapo na hapo tukaendeleza kwa haraka. Kwa hivyo katika ile committee ya nyumba nzima third reading, mimi nitakuwa kwamba napendekeza kwamba tukaweze kuwa na huo utofauti, lakini in principle uhai wa mswada huu ni kwamba mswada huu ni mzuri, ni mswada unaoendeleza afya zetu, na vile vile pia unawachunga na Wakenya wasiweze kupata kuhangaishwa na watapeli ambao kidogo nyuma kidogo tumekuwa tukisafiri katika mabasi haya ya umma. Mheshimiwa Spika, unakuta kwamba anaingia mama ama anaingia baba na anaanza kuuza madawa kwenye mabasi haya na hakuna regulation ya aina yoyote ile. Kwa hivyo ninaamini kwamba ni mswada ambao ni mzuri, utatusaidia, lakini tuweze kufikia mahali ambapo tunasema ngoja tutofautishe haya mambo mawili moja kwa moja kabla ya kwenda mbele, alafu baadaye kuwe na haja ya kufanya hivyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninaunga mkono kwa marekebisho. Asante.
Asante na karibu sana Mheshimiwa Maisori, Kuria East. Mheshimiwa Wajir South, Mohamed Sheikh. The Honorable Mohamed Sheikh for Wajir South, your card, yes. Okay, I understand is in the consultation room. The member from Bonchari, Honorable Homeke Pafra, the member from Bonchari. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this bill. As has been said by various speakers, the regulation of food and drugs, I want to say that is long overdue. We have had many entities that are responsible for regulation of food and drugs in this country, and I want to echo the sentiments of members of this House that there is need to separate between the food and drugs. There seems to be a confusion that if you look at the bill, entire bill as sponsored by Dr. Bukose, 99% is about drugs and medicines, and of course other things. However, there is a very small section that has been dedicated to the aspect of food. And I want to quickly go to the section that covers food, that's section 22. You are talking about manufacture, processing, warehousing, distribution. There is definitely going to be a serious confusion with the other entities that have the same mandate in terms of regulating food. When you talk about processing, take for instance, you go to a supermarket, nowadays they cook, that is food processing. You go there, you can get the French fries, you can even get bread from the supermarket, and that aspect that you require a license from this Food and Drugs Authority, to me, it's going to hinder a lot of things, especially aspects of cottage industries in this country. And therefore, as we go through this second reading, I'll propose that the team, Dr. Bukose and the rest of the team, look at that aspect to make sure that we don't have confusion. Madam Speaker, I would also want to draw your attention to section 6.2, where the proposed bill has provided for the term limit for the Director General. Typically, I don't know why this is the case, Director Generals serve a term of 3 years, while we have the chairman who is appointed by the President serving a term of 4 years. However, in this bill, if you look at 6, you see the Director General has been prescribed a term of 4 years. I'll also request that Dr. Bukose and the team look at the amendment to make sure that the term is 3 years, and also be explicit on the term for the chairman. The chairman typically serves a term of 4 years to make sure that there's consistency with operations of public service, to make sure that there is no confusion. Also, Madam Speaker, I would like to draw the attention to section 77 that talks about the National Quality Control Laboratory. That laboratory, if you look at it, 77A, has a provision of setting standards. I'm also drawing the attention of Madam Speaker that this mandate is actually a mandate of Kenya Bureau of Standards. Let's also be careful not to have cross-cutting or shared responsibilities among government entities. Let it be clear who is responsible for what. And even this National Quality Control Laboratory, I can see it is focusing on drugs, not food. Let's be clear, it's about safety of the food, not the quality of the food or the drugs. And therefore, that clarity needs to be very clear in this act. And finally, Madam Speaker, I draw your attention. There is a section that talks about the financial aspects of the authority. I don't see any provisions for providing, there is funds that have been provided from the Exchequer and all that. However, I would prefer that that section refers to the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 and its amendments to make sure that there is no confusion. When you try to define the financial aspect, and that has been done by other acts of Parliament, it brings an aspect of confusion. Therefore, Madam Speaker, when you come to the third reading, I will support this bill with those few amendments. Thank you.
Very well. At the Committee of the Whole, amendments are very welcome. The member for Matthias. The member for Matthias. The Honorable Odanga Makoha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also want to support the bill sponsored by Honorable Bukose because, Madam Speaker, we really need to have regulations that go with the time. Because since the current existing laws were made, it has taken quite a while, I think from the 50s to date, and so many changes have been taking place in the world today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will also support it because it gives opportunity for our medicines, our drugs, and so on, to find market very easily outside the country, be it in the region or any other place. And I think, as the sponsor said earlier, in Africa, only Ghana and South Africa have been able to reach that level, which he called level 3. And if that is the case, then we'll with the others that are already ahead of us. But, Madam Speaker, as other members have already noted. Lumping food, medicines, and drugs together, I think, is something that we need to give consideration so that each one is handled by separate laws. In fact, as a Committee of Agriculture, we have already started looking at the AFA as it is today to have laws, separate acts for each of the scheduled crops, which I think should be the way that we should even go with this Food, Drugs Authority and so on, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, many countries in the world have gone full throttle to ensure that they are taking making safety regulations to ensure that the drugs are safe for use by human beings and even for other purposes. And Madam Speaker, I want to say that we as a country, we really need to go.
Contribute to this. I call upon the mover to reply. We cannot see you on the request list, Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker, actually, I don't understand that because I have, it's blinking here, both intervention and...
Yes, Honourable Member, but the way we do the requests, I'm not able to catch you. Of course, now you've raised your voice. Please, you can have your 1 minute. Let me give it to you now that you indicate that you wanted to speak. Yes, before the mover. And maybe with this one, I order the officers from the system just to ensure that our cards are captured.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, I had wondered why, as I logged in, both the intervention slot and the other was on, but I really appreciate. Honorable Speaker, allow me to also add my voice to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, specifically when we look at the Honorable Dr. Pokose has seen as important in moving this bill, it is clear that looking at the Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill 2019 seeks to ensure that we have an authority established that would enable that the fragmented legislations that are in place are indeed pulled together. Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the members because we find that this is a very important regulation, one that seeks to ensure that when we have a framework that would want to safeguard the health of the public, we are looking at a cross array of very important parameters. Honorable Speaker, we are looking at issues that relate to medicines, to pharmaceuticals, to food and drugs, to therapeutic and cosmetic issues. Honorable Speaker, other than looking at the very specific aspects that would address the health of the public, there also is the key issue of how we are going to be dealing with authorities that are already in existence and how we then are to address the way that these come together. I agree with members, Honorable Speaker, but I also want to request, because I have heard, as members have said, that we do not want to lump food and drugs together. Honorable Speaker, I am of the view that it would be important to determine what aspect of the food we are dealing with. Presented in the object of this bill is that it is indeed in order that there would be a lot more leaning towards issues that relate to health and relates to pharmaceuticals. Them and safeguarding the health of the public. So, Honorable Speaker, it might not necessarily imply that we cannot have issues that relate to food and drugs on the same bill. I think, Honorable Speaker, what would be important is to determine the aspect and the issue, indeed, whether it would be the food aspects that particularly are important in dealing with regulating health. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as I support, I would want to indeed urge that when we House, I hope, Honorable Speaker, that through the respective committees, particularly the Committee of Health, we can indeed have a clearer indication and a report and exposition that helps us to see the obtaining situation with regards to legislation, with regards to authorities existing, and indeed the kind of overlaps and relationships that we have between food, drugs, and in this regulatory system. I conclude, Honorable Speaker, by also saying that it would be useful to determine, because I see the use of the words or terms authority, system, and the bill almost alternately. And Honorable Speaker, I am not clear that this should be the case, because the bill is Kenya Food and Drugs Authority Bill, and as we look, Honorable Speaker, in the object, we are referring to the National Health Products Regulatory System, and Honorable Speaker, at other times we are referring to the authority. So it would be important to ensure that we have clarity and we do not alternate and use terms that in ways that could confuse us or cause misunderstanding. Madam Speaker, I support and thank you for the opportunity.
Then now, members, there be no another interest for the members to speak to this. I do call upon the mover to reply. The Honorable Pukose Robert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the onset, I want to thank every member who has made contributions to this very important bill. This is actually a very historic bill for us as Parliament, and I think when the history of this Parliament will be written, this is one of the very important bills that this House would have passed. And I want to thank each and every member, and more so the Agriculture Committee, for having looked at this bill very critically, especially on matters food. And I welcome all your contributions. I've heard everything that you said, and the Committee on Health had actually had a discussion with the Committee on Agriculture. They had also had a discussion with the PS Agriculture, Professor Amadi Boga, and Hari Kimutai, and also the technical team from the Ministry of Agriculture. This bill, we were able to be invited to the US to look at how the FDA in the US operates. And those matters that you've actually elaborated on is actually exactly what happens there. And there is a role for the health in as far as food is concerned. That part that is done by the public health is what we will be able to see how best we can be able to retain it within the bill so that the gains that have been made by the public health cannot be lost. But on matters that are handled, thank you.
The current is a revenue stream by public entities mandated to issue the same. I know that the CRB charges 2,200 shillings for clearance certificate, while DCI charges 1,050 for certificate of good conduct, which is valid for 1 year from the date of issuance. Whereas the EACC does not charge any fee, job seekers incurs advocate cost to the commissioning of self-declaration form, which is required to be sworn in the presence of Commissioner of Oaths. I propose that the self-declaration form contains, Madam Speaker, the application and processing of compliance or clearance certificate by relevant entities should be automated in order to facilitate the acquisition of such documents and reduce attendant cost of manual processing of such documents. Madam Speaker, while it is necessary for an employer to require an applicant to submit the compliance or clearance certificate as a condition for confirmation provides that an employer should intend to enter into a written contract of service may, in compliance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution, request an employee to submit mandatory clearance certificate from the relevant entities and may withdraw an offer of contract of service, whereas the employee does not submit the mandatory clearance certificate. The constitutional underpinning of ethics and integrity is provided in Article 10.2c, 73.2a of the Constitution and Section 12A of Leadership and Integrity Act. The provisions are outlined as follows. The statutory requirement for compliance with ethics and integrity is also provided in Section 52 of Leadership and Integrity Act 2012, which provides that the provision of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and Part 2 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, except the Section 18, shall apply to all public officers or as if they were state officers. The provision
that we need to have this bill passed so that our youth will no longer be subjected to this document processing when they are in a known state. These documents are required to be attached to the application forms. So at that stage, the young man or woman doesn't know whether he or she will get the job. Just to go for the interview or even not to even be called for the interview, yet they have gone through this rigorous process through which they even borrow money, because a majority of it is alluded to by the mover, costly. And these young men and women would simply borrow money to be able to acquire these documents, just to even fail to be called for an interview after putting in their applications. And therefore, what we are saying here, Honorable Speaker, is that we would want a process whereby our youth are not locked out of the jobs even before they are interviewed. We would want to encourage them to apply. We would want to encourage the employers to take them through the interviews. If they are sure they will take them, that is the time the young men and women will then now go for these documents. Honorable Speaker, there will be other associated bills that may need to be amended, and we'll be looking at that as a committee once this bill passes through the various process stages, because there are other rules that also require the issuance of clearance and certificates and compliance certificates related, including the Leadership and Integrity Act of 2012, Honorable Speaker, that we may need to look at, so that once we pass this bill, those other related bills may also be amended to ensure that this bill can be implemented fully. Honorable Speaker, as a committee, we may also be, we are proposing also some amendments in the Committee of the Whole House to strengthen this bill, especially on Clause 2 of the bill, where we'll be coming up with some amendments to ensure that the bill is strong enough, clear enough, creating clarity, so that once we go to implementation, then there will be no ambiguity. Honorable Speaker, with this bill, we are now hoping that our youth will find it necessary to participate in virtually all opportunities that come by, because there are no costs associated. Honorable Speaker, we have talked to a number of youth, and whenever they make an application, they fail to follow it up, or they fail to do subsequent applications, considering the costs that they may have gone with only one application, Honorable Speaker. And so this is why we're saying that with this bill, the youth will now no longer be burdened with the costs, and therefore they should find it necessary to now participate in as many opportunities that come as possible, so as to acquire these jobs, Honorable Speaker. We are sure that the institutions that are involved in this document processing of compliance and clearance do not take this as a way of earning money, and therefore they should not have any problem in postponing this process until the youth is full to have been given that job. The employers will continue to create more and more jobs under the Agenda 4, bring up more industries, employ our youth, and also encourage even the informal sector, Honorable Speaker, to absorb as many of our youth as possible, so that together the formal and the informal sector could absorb as many of our youth now without much hindrances that has been caused by this document processing, so as to reduce the number of youth that are unemployed out there. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to second and hope that once this bill is is passed, information will be disseminated as wide as possible for our youth to know that we no longer require the processing of documents as they were required there before. Honorable Speaker, I second. Thank you.
You second. Order, order. Honourable members, I propose the question, which is at the Employment Amendment Bill number 2, the National Assembly Bill number 71 of 2019, be now read a second time. I give the first law to the Honourable Danita Ngati.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to congratulate the Honorable Gideon Keter, who represents youth, Madam Speaker, in this August House, and say on the onset that I support the Employment Amendment Bill that is before this House, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am happy because we, as a House, are actually showing intentions, Madam Speaker, to protect the young people of this country. Madam Speaker, every year we have a lot of fresh graduates who get into our streets, fresh from universities and other institutions of higher learning, Madam Speaker, and who seek employment, Madam Speaker, in this country. But, Madam Speaker, the process of these young people seeking to get employment, Madam Speaker, is not easy in this country. Unemployment amongst the youth in this country, Madam Speaker, is way too high. And, Madam Speaker, you even realize that there are some graduates who leave universities and institutions of higher learning even without their own certificates, Madam Speaker, simply probably because they have not cleared school fees. You know, they are in arrears at school, Madam Speaker, and then they have to face the job market to look for jobs, Madam Speaker. And then immediately, Madam Speaker, the employer subjects these fresh graduates, Madam Speaker, to so many documentation, Madam Speaker, KRA, you know, certificate of good conduct, DCI, I don't know, help, Madam Speaker, and promised a job, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, look at the young people or the youth of this country who have disabilities and who graduate from universities, Madam Speaker, and who have to come all the way to Times Tower, KRA, who have to come all the way to help, Madam Speaker, at Anniversary Towers, all the way from Isebania border or from Turkana, Madam Speaker, and yet they are not even guaranteed of these jobs, Madam Speaker, that they are toiling to get certificates for. Madam Speaker, for me, I want to also say, Madam Speaker, that we need to prepare even our young people. All this information must, Madam Speaker, every university, Madam Speaker, must prepare their students while at universities, Madam Speaker, as they seek to graduate and leave universities, Madam Speaker. That is when young people will understand what it means to be out there and to look for employment, Madam Speaker. Of what use is a degree, Madam Speaker, in this country when that degree cannot put food on your table? Madam Speaker, it is high time that we also ensure that we coach and mentor our young people towards the courses that they take from schools. Madam Speaker, when young people leave universities and get into the streets, they get into the hustle of looking for a job. Madam Speaker, applying. Before they even get this job, Madam Speaker, they have spent all their savings, Madam Speaker, to apply and to go to HELP and to go to KRA and to go to DCI and to go everywhere, Madam Speaker, to look for this documentation, and they are not guaranteed of employment. Madam Speaker, I am happy that this House is giving a new lease of life to our fresh graduates from universities, Madam Speaker, by amending or seeking to even bring this bill to this House. Madam Speaker, I want to say that in employment, Madam Speaker, even in the various organizations or employments, Madam Speaker, what this bill is saying and what I support is that young people who seek employment and are guaranteed, Madam Speaker, that there is a likelihood of being employed, they should be allowed to be employed first, Madam Speaker, and even get at least even 3 months, Madam Speaker, so that at least there you're also saving your money and also ensuring that you have this job first, Madam Speaker, before you go back to your institution of learning, Madam Speaker, or the university to look for this documentation. Madam Speaker, young people in this country live in this country. Madam Speaker, how can we make it easier and lessen the hassle that our youths encounter? Madam Speaker, I come from the county of Migori. And Madam Speaker, right from Rongo constituency, which is just at the border of Kisii and Migori, from Rongo to Isebania border, Madam Speaker, that is the county of Migori. And every time I am in that county, Madam Speaker, the young people who roam our streets, Madam Speaker, looking for employment is just way too high. And when you tell this young person, Madam Speaker, fresh graduates from university, that you have to go and look for these papers so that you apply for a job, Madam Speaker, they completely give up. And Madam Speaker, this is the job that our Huduma centers that are in our counties must also do, apart from also the universities that prepare our young people to get into formal employment. And Madam Speaker, that is the reason we also have to ensure that even our institutions of higher learning do not only focus more on formal jobs or formal employment. I mean, how can we strengthen even informal, kind of jobs so that, Madam Speaker, the TVETs that we have or other institutions can actually also, enhance the capacities of our young people to get employment. So, Madam Speaker, for those reasons, I want to say that this is a bill that for me is a progressive bill. This is a bill that speaks for the youth of this country. This is a bill that talks about employment, Madam Speaker, and that is why at the committee stage, Madam Speaker, I will also be able to bring amendments to ensure also, Madam Speaker, that the time given to even get these documentations for the youth with disabilities in this country, Madam Speaker, who also want employment, are also taken into consideration. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the member and support the employment amendment bill by the Honorable Gideon Keter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Members, given the number of requests that we have, this is a bill that has been moved by the Honorable Gideon Keter. And let me give the opportunity to Honorable Odur Obaka. You will have 1 minute just to register you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. It is true what has been presented here is highly supported. I, as a member of Parliament, have been supporting those students who want to get clearance with some little funds from my pocket. And I find it very frustrating. Young men, they suffer for, first of all, just to get to to where they are to be found. It's not easy. Transport is expensive on their side. They are not employed. They have no income.
Honorable, I need to interrupt you. Honorable Member for Siaya County, Honorable Odror Obak, you will have a balance of 9 minutes when you be next contributing to this bill, and you'll have a priority in speaking. Our members, this order will have a balance of 3 hours and 10 minutes when it will next be scheduled in our order paper for consideration. And now the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned till today, the Wednesday, 22nd September 2021 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
I'll be on the floor.